Robert Holland thought he had grown used to life pinning him against the wall. He was raising a 7-year-old daughter alone. He was drowning in $120,000 of debt from his late wife's cancer treatments. He was working a job that barely kept them fed. But that Tuesday morning changed everything. He was summoned to the 47th floor to meet Jacqueline Cole, the most powerful woman in the company. What happened there went far beyond the fear of being fired. Jacqueline Cole did not fire him. Instead, she made him an offer that seemed impossible. She needed a husband. Not a real one, but someone who could pretend for 8 months. She needed to win a custody battle for her orphan nephew, Theo. The boy's grandparents were fighting her in court. They said she was too cold to raise a child. They called her an emotionless corporate shark. The judge agreed. Jacqueline needed to prove them wrong. She needed a family. Fast. That was where Robert came in. Jacqueline offered to pay off his entire debt. All $120,000 of it. In exchange, he would move into her penthouse on 5th Avenue with his daughter, Lily. They would pretend to be married. They would create the perfect family for the court to see. The deal would last 8 months. Then they would go their separate ways. Robert's first reaction was disbelief. His second was suspicion. His third was desperation. He thought about Lily. He thought about the 5th floor walk-up in Washington Heights where they lived. He thought about the leaking ceiling and the broken heater and the overdue notices that came every week. He thought about the daycare calls and the medical bills and the constant fear that he was failing his daughter. Then he asked the question that would change everything. He asked if they would be sharing a bed. Jacqueline did not hesitate. She said yes. The building staff watched everything. The doorman reported to the tabloids. The court had hired private investigators. If anyone suspected the marriage was fake, the case was over. They had to sleep in the same room. They had to act like a real couple. There was no other way. Robert agreed. He signed the contract that same afternoon. Jacqueline did not smile. She simply told him to pack light. He would need new clothes anyway. Before we continue, please tell us where in the world you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel, and it reminds us that hope and second chances are universal languages. Robert's life had been difficult for 3 years. His wife, Sarah, died when Lily was 4. The cancer came fast and took everything with it. The treatments cost more than Robert could ever afford. He maxed out credit cards. He took out loans. He begged family members for help. Nothing was enough. Sarah died anyway. The debt remained. After the funeral, Robert tried to keep things normal for Lily. He kept working at Cole Holdings, a hedge fund in Midtown Manhattan. He kept taking the subway from Washington Heights every morning. He kept pretending everything was fine. But it was not fine. Lily started having nightmares. Robert started missing work. The bills kept coming. The apartment in Washington Heights was all he could afford. It was small and noisy and falling apart. The neighbors fought at night. The heat barely worked in winter. The stairs were steep and exhausting. But it was home. It was all they had. Lily did not understand why they had to live there. She was too young to understand debt or grief or survival. She just knew her mother was gone, and her father was always tired. She stopped asking questions after a while. She learned to be quiet. She learned to take care of herself when Robert worked late. She learned that life was something you endured. Robert hated that she had to learn those things. He hated that he could not give her more. He hated that he was failing her every single day. When Jacqueline made her offer, he saw a way out. It was not a good way. It was not an honest way. But it was the only way. Jacqueline Cole was not the kind of woman who asked for help. She was 41 years old and ran one of the most successful hedge funds in New York. She lived in a glass-walled penthouse on 5th Avenue. She wore designer clothes and drove a black Mercedes and made decisions that moved millions of dollars every day. People feared her. People respected her. People did not think she had a heart. Her sister, Claire, had been different. Claire was warm and kind, and everything Jacqueline was not. Claire married young and had a son named Theo. She lived in Brooklyn and taught elementary school. She was happy. Then she got sick. The cancer took her in 6 months. She left Theo behind. Jacqueline was named guardian in Claire's will. She expected it to be simple. She would take Theo in. She would give him everything he needed. She would prove that blood mattered more than warmth. But Claire's in-laws disagreed. They filed for custody immediately. They said Jacqueline was unfit. They said she worked too much. They said she had no experience with children. They said she was cold and calculating and incapable of love. The judge seemed to agree. During the first hearing, Jacqueline sat in the courtroom and listened to a parade of witnesses describe her as a machine. Her own employees testified against her. They said she never smiled. They said she never took vacations. They said she fired people without hesitation. The opposing lawyer called her a corporate shark. The judge said she needed to prove she could provide a stable, loving home. That was when Jacqueline realized she needed help. She could not win this case alone. She needed a family. She needed warmth. She needed someone who could make her look human. She thought about her employees at Cole Holdings. She thought about who was desperate enough to say yes. That was when she thought of Robert Holland. Robert was a mid-level analyst who worked in her company. He had been there for 7 years. He was reliable but unremarkable. He never caused trouble. He never stood out. But Jacqueline knew about his situation. She knew about his late wife. She knew about his debt. She knew he was barely surviving. That made him perfect. Jacqueline did not waste time. She called him to her office on a Tuesday morning. She made her offer. She watched him process the information. She saw the fear and the hope and the desperation in his eyes. She knew he would say yes before he even opened his mouth. When he asked about sharing a bed, Jacqueline felt something strange. It was not fear or disgust or anger. It was something closer to relief. She had been alone for so long. She had built walls so high that no one could reach her. The idea of someone sleeping beside her, even if it was fake, felt almost comforting. She did not say that, of course. She just said yes and moved on. The contract was simple. Robert would move into her penthouse by Friday. He would bring his daughter. They would share the master bedroom. They would attend all court dates together. They would appear at public events as husband and wife. They would act like a real family for 8 months. In exchange, Jacqueline would pay off his debt and give him a monthly stipend for expenses. When the custody case was over, he was free to leave. Robert signed without reading the fine print. Jacqueline did not blame him. Desperate people rarely read the fine print. Moving day came faster than Robert expected. He packed 2 suitcases for himself and Lily. He told his daughter they were moving to a new apartment. He did not tell her it was temporary. He did not tell her it was a lie. He just said they were going to live with his boss for a while, and everything would be okay. Lily was excited. She had never been to Fifth Avenue. She had never seen a penthouse. She thought it was an adventure. Robert did not have the heart to tell her the truth. The penthouse was on the 47th floor of a luxury building overlooking Central Park. The lobby had marble floors and crystal chandeliers and a doorman who wore white gloves. Robert felt like an imposter the moment he walked in. The doorman greeted him by name. Jacqueline had already briefed the staff. They were told Robert was her new husband. They were told to treat him accordingly. The elevator ride up was silent. Lily pressed her face against the glass and watched the city shrink below them. Robert watched the numbers climb higher and higher. When the doors opened, Jacqueline was waiting in the hallway. She wore a black suit and her hair was pulled back. She looked like she was about to close a business deal, not welcome a family into her home. She shook Robert's hand. She knelt down and introduced herself to Lily. She was stiff and formal, but she tried to smile. Lily smiled back. She did not know any better. The penthouse was enormous. It had floor-to-ceiling windows that overlooked Central Park. It had 3 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, a chef's kitchen, and a living room bigger than Robert's entire apartment in Washington Heights. Everything was white and glass and steel. It looked like a museum. It did not look like a home. Jacqueline gave them a tour. She showed Lily her new bedroom. It had a canopy bed and a desk and shelves full of books. Lily's eyes went wide. She had never had her own room before. She asked if it was really hers. Jacqueline said yes. Then Jacqueline showed Robert the master bedroom. It had a king-sized bed and a walk-in closet and windows that faced the park. She told him this was where they would sleep. Together. Every night. She said the building staff checked on them regularly. She said the private investigators were watching. She said there could be no mistakes. Robert nodded. He did not trust himself to speak. That night, after Lily was asleep, Robert and Jacqueline went to bed for the first time. They did not talk. They did not touch. They lay on opposite sides of the mattress with a wall of pillows between them. The room was silent except for the distant hum of the city below. Robert stared at the ceiling and wondered what he had gotten himself into. Jacqueline stared out the window and wondered the same thing. Neither of them slept well that first night. Neither of them admitted it. The first week in the penthouse was awkward. Robert and Lily were not used to luxury. They were not used to space. They were not used to silence. The apartment in Washington Heights had always been full of noise. Neighbors shouting. Cars honking. Sirens wailing. Here there was nothing. Just the soft hum of the air conditioning and the occasional clink of ice in a glass. Lily adjusted faster than Robert expected. She loved her new room. She loved the view. She loved the way her voice echoed in the big living room. She ran through the halls and jumped on the furniture and acted like a child for the first time in years. Robert was grateful for that, even if it made him feel like a fraud. Theo arrived the following Monday. He was 7 years old, the same age as Lily. He had dark hair and his mother's eyes and a sadness that seemed too heavy for a child to carry. Jacqueline introduced him to Robert and Lily in the living room. She told Theo that Robert was her husband now. She told him that Lily was his new sister. Theo nodded but did not say anything. Lily, on the other hand, was thrilled. She had always wanted a sibling. She took Theo's hand and dragged him to her room to show him her books. Theo followed quietly. Robert watched them go and felt a pang of guilt. These kids had no idea they were part of a performance. Jacqueline set the rules that first week. She went over them every night after the children went to bed. Rule 1. No separate beds. Rule 2. No hesitation in public. Rule 3. No slip-ups in front of Theo. The boy could not know the marriage was fake. He had lost too much already. He needed stability, even if that stability was built on lies. Robert followed the rules. He held Jacqueline's hand when the doorman was watching. He kissed her on the cheek when they left for work in the morning. He called her honey in front of the building staff. It felt wrong every time. But he did it anyway. The first real test came on Thursday. Theo's grandparents' lawyer showed up unannounced at the building entrance. He was a sharp-dressed man with silver hair and a briefcase full of legal documents. He said he was there to check on the living situation. He said the court wanted to make sure everything was legitimate. Jacqueline did not flinch. She took Robert's hand and pulled him into a kiss right there in the lobby. It was cold and mechanical, and nothing like a real kiss. But it looked real. That was all that mattered. The lawyer watched them for a moment. Then he nodded and left. Jacqueline let go of Robert's hand immediately. She did not say anything. She just walked back to the elevator like nothing had happened. Robert stood there for a moment longer, feeling the ghost of her lips on his. He hated how real it had felt. Living with Jacqueline was nothing like Robert expected. She was not warm or kind or easy to talk to. She was precise and controlled, and always 3 steps ahead. She woke up at 5:30 every morning and went for a run in Central Park. She drank her coffee black and read the Wall Street Journal while standing at the kitchen counter. She spoke in clipped sentences and never wasted words. She treated their arrangement like a business deal, which Robert supposed it was. But there were moments when the mask slipped. Late at night, when she thought no one was watching, Jacqueline would stand at the window and stare out at the city. She looked exhausted. She looked lost. She looked like someone who had been pretending to be strong for so long that she forgot how to be anything else. Robert did not know what to do with those moments. He did not know if he was supposed to say something or leave her alone. Most nights, he just went to bed and pretended he had not seen anything. The kids, however, were a different story. Lily and Theo became inseparable almost immediately. They played together every afternoon after school. They did homework at the kitchen table. They watched cartoons on the massive TV in the living room. They laughed and argued and acted like real siblings. It was the one thing about this arrangement that felt genuine. Jacqueline watched them from a distance. She did not know how to interact with children. She did not know how to play or joke or comfort. She stood in the doorway and observed like a scientist studying a foreign species. Robert found it both sad and frustrating. This woman had fought so hard for custody, but she had no idea what to do with a child once she had him. One night, Lily asked Jacqueline to read her a bedtime story. Jacqueline froze. She looked at Robert like he was supposed to save her. He did not. He just nodded toward Lily's room and said it would mean a lot to her. Jacqueline took a deep breath and followed Lily down the hall. Robert listened from the master bedroom. Jacqueline's voice was stiff and awkward as she read. She did not do the character voices. She did not add any excitement. She just read the words on the page like she was delivering a quarterly earnings report. But Lily did not seem to mind. She fell asleep halfway through, her small hand resting on Jacqueline's arm. When Jacqueline came back to the bedroom, she looked shaken. She did not say anything. She just climbed into bed and turned away from Robert. He wanted to tell her she had done well. He wanted to tell her it would get easier. But he did not. He just turned off the light and let the silence fill the room. The second test came 2 weeks later. The court-appointed evaluator scheduled a home visit. She wanted to see how the family functioned in their natural environment. Jacqueline prepared like she was preparing for a corporate merger. She hired a cleaning service to make the penthouse spotless. She stocked the fridge with organic food and fresh fruit. She bought toys for the kids and family board games they would never actually play. She rehearsed what she would say and how she would act. She left nothing to chance. The evaluator arrived on a Saturday morning. Her name was Dr. Pamela Chen, and she had a clipboard and a warm smile that did not reach her eyes. She asked to see the children's rooms. She asked about their routines. She asked how Robert and Jacqueline divided parenting responsibilities. Jacqueline answered every question with practiced ease. She talked about bedtime rituals and family dinners and weekend trips to the park. She made it all sound so natural, so real. Dr. Chen asked to speak with Theo alone. Jacqueline's face went pale, but she agreed. Theo went into his room with the evaluator. The door closed. Jacqueline stood in the hallway, her hands clenched into fists. Robert had never seen her look so afraid. 20 minutes later, Dr. Chen came out. She thanked them for their time and said she would submit her report to the court within the week. She did not give any indication of what Theo had said. She just smiled and left. Jacqueline collapsed onto the couch the moment the door closed. She put her head in her hands and took a shaky breath. Robert sat down beside her. He did not touch her. He did not say anything. He just sat there and let her fall apart for the first time since they met. After a long silence, Jacqueline spoke. She said she was terrified Theo had told Dr. Chen the truth. She said she was terrified the boy hated her. She said she did not know how to be a mother. Robert told her that no one did. He told her that parenting was just figuring it out as you went. He told her that Theo was lucky to have her, even if she did not see it yet. Jacqueline looked at him for a long moment. Then she said thank you. It was the first genuine thing she had ever said to him. That night, they went to bed like always. But this time, Jacqueline did not turn away. She lay on her back and stared at the ceiling. Robert did the same. Neither of them spoke. But something had shifted. The wall of pillows between them seemed smaller now. Listen, if you've made it this far in the story, you're invested. You want to know what happens to them. But here's the thing, most people scroll past these stories without subscribing. They watch, they enjoy, and they disappear. If this story matters to you, if you actually care how it ends, hit that subscribe button please. It takes 2 seconds. And if you don't, you'll probably forget about this channel and never another amazing stories from me. The court evaluator's report came back positive. Dr. Chen noted that the home environment was stable and loving. She said Theo seemed well-adjusted and happy. She said Jacqueline and Robert appeared to be a strong parenting team. The grandparents' lawyer was furious. He demanded more evidence. He said the marriage was a sham. The judge agreed to one more evaluation. This time, it would be in public. The second evaluation was scheduled for a Sunday morning in Central Park. It was designed to look like a casual family outing, but everyone knew it was a test. A private investigator would be watching from a distance. The evaluator would be reviewing photos and reports afterward. One wrong move, and the case was over. Jacqueline was a nervous wreck. She woke up early and changed her outfit 3 times. She wanted to look like a normal mother, but she had no idea what that meant. She settled on jeans and a sweater, which looked strange on her. Robert had never seen her in anything but business suits. She looked almost vulnerable. They met Lily and Theo in the living room. The kids were excited. They had no idea this was anything more than a regular day at the park. They talked about the playground and the carousel and the hot dog stand. Jacqueline forced a smile and held Robert's hand as they left the building. Central Park was crowded that morning. Families everywhere. Joggers. Dog walkers. Street performers. Jacqueline scanned the crowd nervously, looking for the investigator. Robert squeezed her hand and told her to relax. He said they just had to be themselves. She laughed bitterly and said she had no idea who that was anymore. They walked to the playground first. Lily and Theo ran ahead, racing to the swings. Robert and Jacqueline followed slowly, their hands still intertwined. It felt less forced now. Less like a performance. More like something they had done 100 times before. Then disaster struck. Lily fell off the monkey bars and landed hard on her side. She started crying immediately. Robert ran to her, dropping Jacqueline's hand. He scooped Lily up and checked for injuries. She had scraped her knee and bruised her elbow, but nothing serious. Still, she was crying and scared and asking for her mother. She always asked for her mother when she was hurt. It broke Robert's heart every time. Jacqueline stood frozen a few feet away. She did not know what to do. She did not know how to comfort a crying child. She looked at Robert helplessly. He was busy trying to calm Lily down. Theo was standing beside Jacqueline, watching everything with wide eyes. He looked scared too. That was when Jacqueline did something unexpected. She knelt down beside Theo and put a hand on his shoulder. She asked if he was okay. He nodded. She told him that Lily would be fine, that his Uncle Robert was taking care of her. Theo relaxed a little. Then Jacqueline did something even more unexpected. She pulled Theo into a hug. It was awkward and stiff, but it was real. Theo hugged her back. Robert saw it happen. He saw Jacqueline holding Theo and looking terrified and brave at the same time.
He saw her trying.
That was all that mattered. When Lily finally calmed down, Robert carried her over to a bench. Jacqueline sat beside them with Theo. She asked Lily if she wanted a Band-Aid. Lily nodded. Jacqueline pulled one out of her purse. She had started carrying them everywhere after the first few weeks with the kids. She carefully placed it on Lily's knee and told her she was very brave. Lily smiled. The investigator got it all on camera. The fall. The tears. The comfort. The family coming together. Later, Robert would see the photos in the court report. They looked perfect. They looked real. Because in that moment, they were. After the park, they went back to the penthouse. The kids were exhausted. They fell asleep on the couch watching a movie. Robert and Jacqueline sat in the kitchen, drinking coffee and not talking. The silence was comfortable now, not tense or awkward like it used to be. Jacqueline broke the silence first. She said she was sorry for freezing up at the park. She said she did not know how to handle situations like that. Robert told her she had done fine. He told her that parenting was mostly just showing up and trying your best. She laughed and said that sounded too simple to be true. Robert asked her why she wanted custody of Theo so badly. She had never really explained it. She just said it was what Claire wanted. But Robert sensed there was more to it than that. Jacqueline was quiet for a long time. Then she told him the truth. She said she and Claire had been estranged for years. They grew up together, but went in completely different directions. Claire was warm and open and loved by everyone. Jacqueline was cold and calculating and feared by most. Claire got married and had a child. Jacqueline built a career and shut everyone out. They barely spoke in the years before Claire got sick. When Claire was dying, she called Jacqueline to the hospital. She asked Jacqueline to take care of Theo. She said he needed someone strong to protect him. Jacqueline promised she would. It was the last conversation they ever had. Jacqueline said she owed it to Claire to keep that promise. She said she could not fail her again. Robert did not know what to say to that. He just reached across the table and put his hand over hers. She did not pull away. They sat like that for a long time, the only sound in the apartment the hum of the city outside. That night, they went to bed, like always. But this time, Jacqueline moved the pillows aside.
She said they were pointless now.
Robert agreed. They lay facing each other in the dark, not touching but not distant either. Jacqueline told him thank you for being patient with her. Robert told her thank you for giving Lily a better life. She said it was not just Lily who was getting a better life. He did not ask what she meant. He thought he already knew. They fell asleep like that, side by side. No walls between them. The final court hearing was scheduled for mid-May. Jacqueline's lawyer said they had a strong case. The evaluations had been positive. The photos from Central Park showed a loving family. Theo was thriving in school. Everything looked good. But the grandparents were not giving up. They hired a more aggressive lawyer, a man named Richard Pemberton who specialized in destroying reputations. He was expensive and ruthless and very good at his job. Pemberton requested one more opportunity to present evidence. The judge allowed it. He scheduled a final hearing for the week after Jacqueline's annual charity gala at the Metropolitan Museum of Art. It was one of the biggest events of the New York social calendar. Over 400 guests. Live media coverage. A who's who of Manhattan's elite. Jacqueline had been planning it for months. She could not cancel now without raising suspicion. The gala was on a Saturday night. Jacqueline wore a black gown that cost more than Robert's old apartment. He wore a tuxedo she had bought for him. They looked like they belonged together, like they had been married for years. The cameras loved them. Reporters asked about their whirlwind romance. Jacqueline smiled and said they had fallen in love quickly and did not see the point in waiting. Robert played along. He said she had changed his life. It was not entirely a lie. Inside the museum, the event was flawless. There were string quartets and champagne fountains and art worth millions hanging on the walls. Jacqueline worked the room like a politician. She introduced Robert to donors and board members and business partners. She kept her hand on his arm the entire time. He was starting to forget it was an act. Then Pemberton showed up. He was not invited, but he came anyway. He walked straight up to Jacqueline in the middle of the gala and handed her a manila envelope. He said it was a gift. Then he left. Jacqueline opened the envelope in the coat check room. Robert stood beside her. Inside was a transcript of their original meeting, the one where she had made her offer, where she had told Robert she needed a fake husband, where they had discussed the contract. Someone had been recording them, probably a hidden device in the office. The grandparents' lawyer had everything on tape. Jacqueline's face went white. She said it was over. She said there was no way to explain this. She said she had lost. Robert took the envelope from her and read the transcript himself. It looked bad. It looked like exactly what it was. A business arrangement.
A lie.
But Robert had an idea. He told Jacqueline they could still win. They just had to tell the truth. Not the whole truth, but enough of it. She asked what he meant. He said he would explain in court. The final hearing was held on Monday morning. The courtroom was packed. The grandparents sat on one side with their lawyer. Jacqueline and Robert sat on the other with theirs. Theo was in a side room with a court guardian. He would not have to testify unless absolutely necessary. Pemberton went first. He played the recording for the entire courtroom. Jacqueline's voice came through the speakers, cold and calculated, offering Robert money in exchange for pretending to be her husband. Robert's voice came next, asking about logistics, about sharing a bed, about how long the arrangement would last. It sounded terrible. It sounded exactly like a scam. The grandparents' lawyer rested his case. He said the evidence spoke for itself. He said Jacqueline Cole was a liar and a manipulator. He said she was using Robert and his daughter as props. He said Theo deserved better. Then it was their turn. Jacqueline's lawyer looked nervous. He had not expected the recording. He started to argue that the context was being misconstrued, but Robert interrupted him. He stood up and asked if he could address the court directly. The judge looked annoyed but allowed it. Robert walked to the front of the courtroom. He looked at the judge and took a deep breath. Then he told the truth. He said yes, the marriage started as a business arrangement. He said Jacqueline had offered him money, and he had accepted because he was desperate. He said it was not romantic or noble or anything people wanted to hear. But then he said something else. He said that over the past 8 months, something had changed. He said Lily had stopped having nightmares. He said Theo had started smiling again. He said Jacqueline had learned how to hug her nephew and read bedtime stories and be present in a way she never had before. He said the marriage might have started as a contract, but it had become something real. He said his daughter called Jacqueline Aunt Jackie now. He said Theo called him Uncle Robert and sometimes just Dad. He said they were a family even if it did not start the way families were supposed to start. He said the kids did not care about contracts or recordings or court cases. They just cared that they were loved. And they were. Robert looked at the grandparents then. He said he understood they wanted what was best for Theo. He said they had every right to fight for him. But he asked them to look at the boy. Really look at him. See how happy he was. See how much he had healed. Then he sat down. The courtroom was silent. The judge looked at Jacqueline. She asked if Robert was speaking the truth. Jacqueline stood.
She said yes.
She said the marriage had started as a lie, but the love was real. She said she was not perfect and probably never would be. But she was trying, and she would keep trying for as long as Theo needed her. The judge asked to speak with Theo. The boy was brought into the courtroom. He looked scared. The judge knelt down to his level and asked him a simple question. She asked if he was happy living with Jacqueline and Robert. Theo nodded. She asked if he felt safe. He nodded again. She asked if he wanted to stay with them. Theo looked at Jacqueline. Then he ran to her and hugged her tightly. Jacqueline closed her eyes and held him. She was crying. Robert had never seen her cry before. The judge made her ruling that afternoon. She granted full custody to Jacqueline Cole. She said that while the circumstances were unconventional, the outcome was clear. Theo was thriving. The family, however it had been formed, was real. The grandparents could have supervised visitation, but primary custody belonged to Jacqueline. Pemberton tried to object, but the judge shut him down. She said the case was closed. They went back to the penthouse that night. The kids were exhausted from the stress of the day. Lily and Theo fell asleep in Theo's room, curled up together on the bed. Jacqueline and Robert sat in the living room, staring out at the city. The 8-month contract was officially over. Robert could leave now if he wanted. His debt was paid. Lily's future was secure. He had fulfilled his end of the deal. Jacqueline told him that. She said he was free to go. She said she would understand. Robert did not move. He asked if she wanted him to go. Jacqueline looked at him for a long time. Then she said no. She said she wanted him to stay. Not because of the court case. Not because of the kids. But because she had gotten used to waking up next to him. She had gotten used to him being there. She said she did not want to go back to being alone. Robert smiled. He said he did not want to go back to Washington Heights. He said he liked it here. He liked the view. He liked the space. He liked the way Jacqueline looked when she stood at the window in the morning. He liked the way she was learning to be a mother. He liked the way she was learning to let people in. Jacqueline asked what happened now. Robert said he had no idea. He said they could figure it out together. She said that sounded terrifying. He said it probably would be. But it would be worth it. They went to bed that night without any contracts or agreements or rules. They just went to bed as themselves. Two people who had started as strangers and become something more. Something neither of them had expected. Something real. The next morning, Robert woke up to find Jacqueline already awake. She was sitting up in bed, reading the Wall Street Journal like always. But this time, she was smiling. He asked what was funny. She said nothing was funny.
She was just happy.
It was the first time she had said that in years. Later that day, the four of them went to Central Park.
Not because they had to,
Not because anyone was watching.
just because they wanted to.
Lily and Theo ran ahead to the playground. Robert and Jacqueline walked behind them, holding hands. The private investigator was long gone. The court case was over. There was no one left to perform for. But they held hands anyway, because it was not a performance anymore. It was just their life. Messy and complicated, and built on a foundation of lies. But real nonetheless. And that was enough. So here's the real question. Did you subscribe yet? Thousands of people will listen to this story and won't subscribe. Please don't be that person. Kindly support what I do here by subscribing. And then drop in the comment section if you would like part 2. What challenges will they face as a new blended family? Let me know if you want to hear more.